Good morning, everybody. What's going on? Your host, LovelyCheesePizza here, and welcome back to Let's Play some more Gran Turismo 3, the ultimate driving simulator. I decided to wait until today to do this video, because yesterday my voice was not in condition for this. I went to the Backstreet Boys concert up in Portland the other night, and I was yelling so consistently for so long that my voice was absolutely toast. But I will talk about that experience in a different video, because that was totally awesome. But yeah, now it's, you know, like 6 something in the morning, and I'm like barely even awake right now. And so we're gonna move through midfield here. I kind of juggled the idea of whether I wanted to do midfield or whether I wanted to do Laguna Seca, and then it kind of struck me. I don't feel like I've done midfield raceway in a really long time for anything, now that I think about it. And so I was like, you know what, I think I want to do this one. And you know, oh boy. And I've got some very interesting material to talk about on this particular occasion, because Reddit is an amazing place that always seems to have something to to work with, no matter what the situation tends to be. And it's really interesting because it was a topic that came up on Ask Reddit that I had like secretly always kind of hoped what I would see someday. Because and some of you guys may remember this from way back in the day. I had talked about this on a couple different occasions. This was probably like 7 or 8 years ago, maybe. So I had mentioned way back in the day that there was a time that my friend Matt and I had contemplated creating. We actually thought about writing a book, and the book was going to be, I think I even still remember the title of it. It was going to be called the Compendium of Buffet Etiquette. You know, it was going to be like a kind of like a comedic version of like a handbook of just like the right way to fucking exist at a buffet and to not be a jackass in there. And so we were gonna do that, because we were gonna make it like, you know, you have to have at least 2 plates before you go to dessert. You know, you have to have enough food to cover, you know, at least 75% of the plate. You know, and you've got to have at least you know, 1 source of meat and 1 source of carbs that may or may not have to consist of mac and cheese. But just, you know, things like that. You know, and then like salads are not acceptable. Like the only thing that you're allowed to pilfer out of a salad bar would be, you know, this or this. But anything that consists of lettuce is not acceptable unless it's from a taco bar. So, you know, just like things like that. And then all of a sudden I was on Reddit at work during my break, and I saw the topic that I was always wanting to see, and it was either like workers or just people in general that frequent buffets. What are your horror stories? And I was like, oh shit, shit, oh god, oh wow, he actually totally fixed that. What the? That was great. He's like, I see this man is losing his mind, and potentially the race. Let me fix it for him so that he may go right ahead and totally bury me alive. They say chivalry is dead, and it is most certainly not. The whole chivalry thing is actually really interesting, because they, you know, they always say it in terms of chivalry being like, you know, the proper way to treat women. Which, if you actually go and like look at the code of chivalry, like it's really not as, there's actually a lot less about that in there than there is, like, you know, like medieval, like, isn't it like, I think the code of chivalry is actually more about like, you know, like acceptable I'm trying to think of like the way to say it. Like, isn't it also like, you know, the proper mannerisms of like hand-to-hand combat, like medieval battle and whatever? Like, I know there was obviously like, you know, you never want to be an asshole to women, but a lot of it was just like, you know, the proper ways to engage in combat, like acceptably. I don't know if I'm really, you know, I don't know if I'm describing that properly, but I saw like a little thing about it yesterday where it's like, you know, I didn't hold a door open for a woman and she told me chivalry is dead, and so I challenged her to hand-to-hand combat. Turns out I'm a better jouster than she is. Chivalry is definitely alive, but she is absolutely dead. Such a great little meme. I might not win this. This guy really got out in front of me really quickly. Jesus Christmas. 5.5. I will catch him eventually, I hope. This is a much more competitive race than I gave it credit for. But we'll be all right. But anyways, back to the whole thing here. So, so this whole buffet deal, it was just littered to the gills with amazing material. Everything, wow, a full second, just off of that one turn alone. This is not turning out to be a very positive experience at the moment. So basically, I'm going to have to probably bank on the fact that he's going to need to hit the pits at some point, I think. This race is short enough, he may not have to. And so one of them, and I think it was probably the most glaringly yikes one out of all of these, was a Golden Corral somewhere. I don't know where it was. It may have been in Texas. It may very well have been in Florida, just based off of the content of it. But a Golden Corral got forcibly shut down somewhere because it came into the light that the cooks were selling like meth and heroin out of the back of the kitchen, and they were also totally porking the underage waitresses in there. So, totally not good. You can't be boning sub 18-year-old waitresses in there. All the meanwhile, you're totally, you know, running a drug ring inside of that place, and so totally got that shut down. So nobody's gonna be coming in there getting their plates full of olives and French fries. God damn it! Yep, that's gonna be the end of this race. That's just gonna be what it is. I have 100% doomed myself to a life of not winning this one. That's just gonna be how that is. That sucks, man. Fuck. 12 seconds. Jesus. I mean, unless he goes in. If he goes into the pits, we still have a chance to win this race. So we'll see what happens. I'm gonna play it out here. I'm not gonna throw in the towel. Just crazier things have happened here, and I mean, I feel like at least some of these dudes are gonna have to do it. But yeah, if he doesn't hit the pits, there's not a single chance in hell that we're gonna catch up to him, because he is on top of his shit right now. But yeah, so that one was pretty bad. There was another one where I don't even remember where this one was at, but the person was saying that they worked at this place, and they saw that this happened more than once with a different set of people. But these people would, you know, they'd pay the fee to get in, and they would just absolutely engorge themselves with food, just in ungodly amount, just packing their bodies to the brink of explosion. And then they would actually legitimately throw up all over their table, just like not even having the courtesy to go to the bathroom and yak up all of their like mashed potatoes and, you know, prime rib and, you know, like meatloaf and really shoddy looking pizza. You know, not even having the courtesy to go off to an actual bathroom to do that. They apparently would throw up at their own table. And then, you know, once they've emptied the contents of their stomach out, they'd go back for more, just for the sole purpose of making, you know, the price of entry worth it. Which is so like, I wouldn't even want to eat after throwing up. Like, who? I can't really think of anybody that, you know, directly after throwing up immediately feels good enough to go back and eat more of the same food that you just threw up. Like, what? Like, who has ever done that? You know what I mean? Like, I have never had a meal in which I threw it up and then immediately after throwing up being like, well, you know what? I guess I want to try to have some more of that now. Like, that seems like a pretty good idea. it just like, it doesn't even compute that type of mindset. It's just a nightmare. And then there's another one where, like, it's the total, like, epitome of being cheap. This lady goes in and she, you know, she was hungry, but she didn't want to pay for her kids to eat. And so, you know, she exclaimed to the people that, you know, that she was the only one eating and her kids were just coming along. And so she pays for it and she goes to her table and she has the kids sit underneath the table and she gave them like scraps of food under the table like she was feeding a couple of dogs. And the person was just like so mortified by the fact that she, not even necessarily that she was feeding her kids under the table, but she literally had them sitting under the table, like more or less begging for food like animals. Like, it's just, like, you will get down there and you will beg for your cod. It's just like, it's awful. Like, why wouldn't you just fucking pay for it? Like, kids pay, you know, the fee for kids is so exponentially lower, you know, to eat than it is for an adult. Like, it's only a few bucks. Like, don't be a fucking cheapskate and just let them go get their damn food instead of making them sit underneath the fucking table, like getting like pieces of chewed gum in their hair and, you know, you feeding them pieces of stuff that they probably don't even want, but you're just, you know, it's fucking yikes. And it's not like these tables are like, you know, they're not like, it's not like they're covered where like people wouldn't blatantly know what you're doing. The whole thing is just, ugh. I am really holding out hope for the fact that these dudes are gonna go for it here. Like, you would think they would do it. Like, we've done 10 lap races where they're going in. You would think in a 15 lap race this guy would probably end up doing it. And like, we're almost reaching a point where even if he does hit the pits, we may not even be able to pass him at, like, in the midst of that. He might be so far ahead that even when he comes out, he's gonna be still ahead. So this is not good. I'm trying so hard to at least stay within striking distance here, but I may not be able to close the gap enough. Like, he's consistently getting better, or I'm consistently getting worse. It's one of the two of them. But yeah, so that's another one. Oh god. The one that's probably the most ridiculous, though, it actually had a title to it, if you could believe it. It was called the Steakhouse Incident. And there's a website that you can go to that'll actually give you the full story, but I'll give you the gist of it. So there's a guy, he went to a buffet with his family. I don't know what it was, but apparently, like, it was like once a month they would have a kids night, and you know they'd have a special where they had like this huge fucking, you know, thing of like macaroni and beef, so maybe like beefaroni or something, and they just have this big ass thing of it, and that'd be like, you know, one of the big things that the kids would go for. And so this guy, you know, it was always his favorite night because the macaroni and beef deal was like his fucking jam. And so, you know, whenever it would happen, he'd go and he'd get like 4 plates full of it, just absolutely just, you know, going fucking insane with that whole deal. And so he ended up having 4 full plates of this stuff, and he also had like an entire separate plate full of rolls. And so the dude just absolutely just stuffed himself to the point of inciting, you know, stomacular doom. Stomacular is not even a word, but it is right now. And then all of a sudden he had that moment where he could feel just the entire contents just go shooting straight down to his ass. And so he's like, shit, I gotta go handle this. And so he goes into the bathroom, and he has that glorious moment where, you know, and dudes know this really well, like that moment where you know that you've got to do it, and so you go into the stall and you have like that perfect sequence of pulling your pants down while doing that 180 spin move to sit down on the toilet, in order to, like, the moment that you sit down is when, the plug pulls and, everything comes spewing out at about 450,000 PSI. And so he was going for that, trying to, because the heat was on in that moment where just everything dropped immediately. He was like, if I don't do this right now, I'm not gonna make it. But little did he know that when he went into the stall and he was doing the 180 spin move, he realized that, like, as he's, priming the chamber for fire, that the person that was in the stall before him had just vomited up this insane mess in the toilet and never flushed it. They just left it there. And so he caught sight and wind of it at just the wrong moment. And God, this person was just fucking murdering me right now. This isn't even fair. Like, this is the culmination of what I've been doing to people for the last foreseeable 25 seconds almost. Just an absolute just hellscape of this. Like, something tells me, had we not spun out twice, we would have probably been in perfect contention to handle this. But fuck, dude, he is just ripping me. Okay, so one guy has gone in. I don't know if this dude's gonna do it, and even if he does, he's probably still gonna win. But yeah, so he caught wind of this, and so it made he basically his stomach started churning. That it was just so disgusting that he was gonna puke. And so because of the fact that his stomach started churning, his angle changed of how he was sitting, and he ended up shitting all over the back of the toilet, and it, like, shot up against the wall. And, like, a bunch of it got on the seat, and so he ended up sitting down on the seat on top of his own shit, and partially, some of the vomit from before. And then he sat down and just, blew the entire contents of his stomach and colon all over the place. And what, to make matters worse, he was wearing a pair of sweatpants that had, like, the elastic bands down on the ankles. And so he's sitting down while that's going on, and he just starts just violently throwing up into his pants, just into the sweatpants, and because of that elastic band, there's nowhere for it to go, and so he's literally just filling up his sweatpants at the leg, just full of fucking puke, of just this massive stockpile of macaroni and beef and yeast rolls. Just, like, the part that's so amazing about it is the way that he was wording, like, the way that he told this story. Like, you can just envision and feel the pain that he's going through in this moment. And then all of a sudden, like, the moment hits and he just has no fucking idea of what he's supposed to do, because he knows that he's committed the ultimate bathroom stall sin. And there's no turning back from here. Like, there's nothing he's going to be able to do that he's going to be able to get out of this situation without at least one person knowing what's going on. And so apparently the manager had come into the bathroom, and he needed to tell him what was going on in order to be able to rectify the situation. And so, oh wow, so he went in the pits and only lost 8 seconds. Holy shit. Now that guy has just immortalized me. We're gonna have to do this race over again next time. There we go. Oh shit. I at least want to maintain second place. At least give me my slice of dignity out of it, for crying out loud. And so the manager comes in there, and he knows that he's, really about the only way he's going to get away with this, because apparently this had to have been at a time when cell phones just weren't a thing. Because he could have very easily just texted his wife and said, "Hey, I fucking ruined this situation. I need you to bail me out of it." But he had the audacity to tell the manager, "Hey, I made a mistake here. I need some help." and you know, like, I made a little bit of a mess in here, I need some help. And the guy was just gonna be like, well, don't worry, I'll have, you know, I'll just have one of the, you know, finish up what you gotta do, and I'll have, you know, one of the one of the janitorial people come in here and handle it after you're done. He's like, no, you don't understand. I made a mess beyond the help of a single person. He's like, and I wouldn't want to leave that to anybody else anyways. So, like, let me take care of it. I was like, so he was like, he's like, could you do me a favor and go and get my wife and have her come in here, please? And he told him where she was at, and he's like, okay. And so he goes and gets her, and she comes in, and he made her go across the street and buy him an entirely new wardrobe because of the fact that he got literally shit and puke all over his entire everything. Shoes, socks, pants, boxers, shirts somehow. I don't really know how that worked out. And just everything. And so she went over and did it, and he talked to the manager again and had him bring in a hose, because it was one of those commercial bathrooms that has the drain in the middle of the floor. And so he brought in a hose, and they attached it to the bottom of the sink, and he just left the hose in there for him. And so he comes out just butt-ass naked and is just like hosing down the entire bathroom. and gets all of everything, you know, dealt with. And his wife brings him in his entirely new wardrobe, and they get, you know, and he's able to change his clothes, and he throws all of his extra shit into like this plastic bag, and they go and throw it away out and, you know, outside behind the fucking restaurant or whatever. And so he comes out of the bathroom, and apparently the entire restaurant staff was standing outside waiting for him to come out, and they're all just like giving this giant round of applause. And he's just like, I felt like so horribly embarrassed by that I left. He's like, but at the same time, I went back like next week because, you know, obviously probably the most embarrassing moment of my life, but the staff was like super cool about it, and they're like some of the nicest people in the world. So like I still go back all the time, and like every once in a while, if the owner of that place is still there, we joke about it. But man, that person's a better man than I am to be able to joke around about a situation like that. I would have been a broken fucking soul if that happened to me. There would have been absolute zero, you know, mental reparation for that. I would have just been a broken fucking man. But yeah, dude, the horrors of buffets are something else. There's even another one where a guy walked up to the buffet and took his shirt and used it as a bag and just loaded it up with chicken wings and then just fucking left. He just fucking left. He just walked in there, paid the fee to get in, took as many hot wings as he could withstand getting in his shirt, and just fucking walked out the door. It is amazing. And then the last one I have here is apparently a dude called Pickle Boy, which was a guy that I think he was like schizophrenic or had like some kind of mental disorder, as the person described. But he would always get the exact same thing every time. He would get a plate full, just full to the brim of like the little pickle, you know, the little circles, the little circular pickles. He'd get as many of those as they had available, put them on a plate, and then just totally douse them in ranch, like to the point where the ranch was like dripping off the side of the plate. And I mean, he would just do that. And then he would go find the table that had the most people sitting at it and sit right next to it, and then just start spouting off a bunch of like conspiracy theories just right in their general vicinity at a volume that was just a little bit too high to try to get them to engage in it. It was so funny. Oh my god. This is the one that has 1,000 horsepower? Holy shit. Maybe I need to use this car. I think I might use this car next time just to switch it up a little bit. See if I can atone for my sins of what happened last time. Because, ooh, that was embarrassing, man. Just that one time of spinning out. I mean, I know the guy got a little bit of a lead on me, but he increased that lead on his own by like 20 seconds. It was insane. So, yeah, dude, we're gonna stop right here. So when we come back on the next installment of Let's Play Gran Turismo 3: The Ultimate Driving Simulator, we're gonna have to go back and do that race again. I really underestimated midfield. It's been a little while since we've done that one, and I think it showed. But it's not gonna happen next time. So yeah, guys, we'll talk about stuff again next time that we come back, because there's always more to talk about. And with that said, my friends, this is your host, LovelyCheesePizza, saying thanks. Take care. I'm gonna go get ready for work because, well, I gotta do that. So take care, everyone. Have a good one.